Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we have an expert voice from Nitro Gear Axle, and we're going to be discussing gears and lockers. And by the end of this video, you're going to find out if gears and lockers are going to be right for your application. And you're going to want to stay till the end so you can get your discount code directly to Nitro Gear Axle for all your gear and locker needs. Let's go. Today I have with me Chris Visual from Nitro Gear Axle.
Hey guys, my name is Chris. I'm with Nitro Gear Axle. I head their digital marketing department. Austin, what all did you guys want to go over?
We really want to go over and talk about when and why to re-gear, you know, how much gearing will somebody need, tire size versus the added weight, and just get over some of these hurdles that scared me in the beginning of wanting to do gears, because I think of it like, you know, gears are kind of like this unseen object, and a lot of I wouldn't say a lot of what we do is aesthetic, but a lot of the vehicle modifications, you're like, you can see it, right? And you can go, oh yeah, I see that you have this sweet rack on the back of your truck and it holds cool stuff, but the gears aren't really like a showcase object, right? And so I think
they are not. They are far from front and center.
Yeah, and they get passed over so much, but they're really a very important part of the system from my perspective and my understanding of it, and I just want to share that with everybody else. When should somebody start considering re-gearing as an Overlander?
The moment you change your tire size. The moment you change your tire size. What we like to tell people is that you need to gear for the future of your vehicle. You know, most of the newer vehicles, they've got a high geared overdrive and they're shipped from the factory kind of on the brink, on the ragged edge of being able to perform at the best MPG so they can put that on the sticker. But at the same time, a common misconception is that it's only a modification that people that have gnarly off-road rigs should consider, and that's not true. Your drivetrain is all mathematics from the factory. The engineers, they go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and it's all math, basically. Your drivetrain is math. So as soon as you change one of the variables that are in that equation, like tire size especially, it's the most common,
right? All
the rest of the drivetrain math that the engineers fought so hard to get right are thrown out the window. Just for an extreme example, a guy buys a Ford F-250. Okay, he's got a Super Duty. He's got a nice diesel engine that puts out a lot of torque, but he goes up to 37s or 40s. Suddenly all that torque is misplaced and it ends up causing drivetrain stress, and it's something that you can feel after you put on bigger tires. And so at that point you got to go, okay, something's wrong, my truck's not performing the same way. It all has to do with the gear ratio at the end, final drive ratio. By correcting the final drive ratio, you can correct the other mathematic equation that's going through the rest of your drivetrain. In fact, I'd venture to say that most people that enjoy four-wheel drive stuff have never considered gearing because their truck still works. They can still take it off the Forest Service road and go fishing up at the lake, but they're not realizing what a different performance they could be experiencing, because your truck is going to just float where you used to have to gas it.
Oh, I see.
It all kind of comes down to tire size, but there are also so many more variables like your added weight. Those are all things that you need to consider, and also your transmission type. And we actually have a calculator on our website, which is a really handy tool that we use a whole lot, because we've got, you know, recommended RPMs at 60 miles per hour, which is most people's traveling speed on the interstate. You can put in different variables to the engine RPM calculator to get the desired gear ratio that you need.
And I've looked at your calculator and it's very informative, but how would somebody know what the ideal RPM range is for their vehicle in the stock formation?
So we do have a chart, but it doesn't cover every engine, of course. It is something that you can Google, but the chart that's on the right-hand side of our RPM calculator is really handy. For instance, most typical six cylinders, they're happy around 60 miles per hour in the 2,000 to 3,000 RPM range. You know, for a Power Stroke turbo diesel, 1,400 to 2,200 RPM is the recommended range at 60. So depending on the gear ratio, depending on the tire size and what miles per hour you input in those variables, it'll give you, you know, about what your RPM range is going to be at 60 miles an hour.
Okay,
and
perfect.
It definitely help you make a decision.
So if somebody was looking into doing the process, you know, doing gears, should there be anything that holds them back from pulling the trigger on lockers?
So the biggest consideration is, do you need a locker or do you need a limited slip for what you do? Price point can be greatly different. If you're a wheeler, don't even think about limited slip. You have to go full selectable locker or automatic locker if you're, picking tires up off the ground, because that's really, in that situation, you would have to force a limited slip to grip with a wheel coming off the ground. That's almost the only time when you should have to do it if it's a really solid limited slip.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that we have at Nitro are super aggressive. A lot of the overland guys, they may be camping and, mountain conditions can change in an instant. It may be just better security-wise to go with a stout locking differential.
Right.
Other than that, limited slips also can serve most people very well. It's kind of one of those decisions that's really up to the user and how they use their vehicle. But people like you, who go way more adventurous with their camping,
Yeah.
you might be a good, I think going with an ARB air locker was actually a really good decision for you, because you're one of the type of people that could very well need it.
I've really felt the benefit in having a locker on the vehicle. It has really pulled me out of situations where I would have had to pull a winch, especially when you're cross-threading something and your front's off. You have basically you're teeter-tottering between your front and your rear, right? And so at any point when you're three-wheeling, I know the A-track on the Tundra kicks in at about 2,000 RPMs, and to have that kind of wheel speed or that RPM range, your wheel speed's increased. And so, slamming that wheel back on the ground, from my point of view, you're just causing extra tension on the drive components by placing that rapidly spinning wheel back on the ground.
The moment you catch traction and come back down, that's the moment where you're doing the most possible damage to your vehicle. That's how people break shafts, and that's how you can break ring and pinions, shock load. In having a locker or in having a limited slip for what you're doing, it can basically take away the need to have an enormous amount of wheel speed. You can control the situation way easier, and also it's just safer.
We've talked about the good part of lockers, but what would be like a drawback or negative side to having lockers on a vehicle on like an independent front suspension type?
With no traction device, I would say that you're risking way more in an off-road scenario than if you were to have a locker or a limited slip. That also relates to gearing, because just in the same type of scenario that you don't have the right carrier for the job, if you don't have the right gearing for the job, you also have to compensate with wheel speed. Definitely goes hand in hand for anybody that does any serious off-roading.
Can you tell me why Nitro Gear would be better than its competition?
There's a lot of manufacturers that are great out there for ring and pinions. I personally believe in Nitro Gear the most for the simple fact that I know exactly what our Q&A process is. We have a very, very awesome facility that is doing a great job at triple lapping every gear, making sure that the hardness is set correctly, all of the steel and the tooling that goes into an actual quality gear. We feel very confident that they are among the best standards of the world. We're striving for high quality and to be a premium industry leader in the world of differentials and axles.
If people want to contact you and people want to find out more about Nitro Gear, what can they do?
Oh, feel free to hit us up on social media. That's exactly what I run. We've got a Facebook, we've got a YouTube, we have an Instagram, and we're active on all of them. We're happy to talk. You can also call in the shop. All of our sales team gladly assist with any kind of tech Q&A that you've got, so they know what the heck they're talking about.
My final thoughts are this. It's a great idea to re-gear. And once your budget allows, you should think about re-gearing and putting in a locker, just so you don't have to open up the differential a second time, costing you more money in the long run. And like Chris said earlier, it's going to save you more money in the long run to swap your gears out, because it's going to be easier on your drivetrain components. Thank you, Chris and Nitro Gear Axle, for your expert opinion today and helping us wade the waters of gears and lockers. And don't forget to check the description down below for your discount code. I'm Austin with WolfPac-Outdoors. I'll holler at you later.